All right. Well, let's jump anyway. So you had a homework assignment. You were going to work on your play after Tuesday. What was the new play? Remind me. I should have looked at it.
The driving, the road trip.
Yeah, the road trip. That road trip. So when is your road trip?
We didn't go. We were going to go last week. We were
Okay.
thinking Molly would have her wisdom teeth out and everything would be fine, and we'd go to San Francisco. And no, she's still swollen and bruised, and she can't even close her mouth, so she can't eat. And
That's one way to handle the eating
yeah,
challenge.
right.
Wow, not the best way, but a way for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't go.
Okay. I like the ideas that you had. I thought they were really effective. And then I thought it was really interesting that came up in the Thursday meeting as well. It's a very, very common issue, right? All right. Well, this week we were going to talk about, this is one of my favorite chapters in the book because it talks about all the scientific studies.
I was so sad when it ended. I was like, no, I want more. It wasn't long enough.
It's really, really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like it because I worry that people will think I'm insane, or, it's nice to have a chapter where you can say, read this.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going to scan it and just have it to email people. It feels like people don't really understand what this is and how it really works. And it's especially for really left brain people. Men tend to be very left brain people. It's nice to have something that says, read this and then see if you have a little more confidence in that process. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I really liked it. You did read the whole thing, you said?
Yep.
Good. What stood out to you most?
Let's see. I have some underline and some notes and stuff. So on page 283, I've underlined the second paragraph. Every emotion has a physical sensation. For example, when you experience feeling scared, you may perceive a pounding and rapid heartbeat, or perhaps you experience an overall physical tightness in your body or chest. This emotional physical connection is so profound and accessible that psychiatrist so-and-so helps his patients get connected with their emotions by first having them identify the physical sensations they are experiencing in their bodies.
And tell me what you thought about that when you read it.
I don't remember.
It stood out to you for a reason. Why do you think that?
Yeah. I guess just to be more aware of what those sensations are. Gosh, I don't even know. I'm like drawing a blank now. Why did that stand out to me?
Well, and the point of being able to recognize what the sensations are is so that you can more quickly recognize what the emotion is, right? Because sometimes it's easier, like in trying to identify what our emotions are, sometimes we're just not sure. I tend to categorize it all as anxiety. It's anxiety. It's like, okay, but anxiety itself doesn't really tell me much. Is it really fear? Is it anger? Is it resentment? Is it sadness? What is it? And so if I can learn to recognize, okay, when I'm feeling angry, my heart pounds harder. It really does. It speeds up, and I'm sure that adrenaline kicks in. So when I've got that going on, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling anger or resentment towards somebody or something right now. What is it? Right? When I feel scared, it feels like right in the center of my chest, somebody is like squeezing. Right? And so I have to think, as soon as I feel that, oh crap, okay, something is scary. Because I'll feel it when I'm seriously I don't think I'm thinking about anything scary. My brain is off on work or I'm fixing lunch and I think, why do I feel this scared feeling? And then as I learn to think about it for a minute and do that IAAA process, right? First I'll identify, okay, I'm feeling fear. First of all, accept it. Okay, I am feeling fear for some reason. And then attribute, why am I feeling fear? Then I have to think for a minute, what was I just thinking about? Or what happened right before this? What did somebody just say to me? I just kind of have to rewind my life, sometimes a few minutes, sometimes a few hours, and figure out what is going on in my head. And then I'll realize, oh, just before so-and-so left the door, they said this, and that triggered my thought of this and this and the what if this, and that kind of started the fear going, right? Or somebody said something to me that I didn't think was very nice, and I tried to blow it off, but really that is bothering me, or so just by going through that. And then of course the last A, action, I need to identify the emotion. So I now know, what is that emotion telling me? Is it telling me I need to talk to that person? Is it telling me that I need to remind myself that that's not in my control? What is it telling me? Right? So it is very true. Every emotion has a physical sensation. And I would say every emotion also has a thought attached to it. Because sometimes I think we like to believe that we just feel something and there's no reason for it. And it just isn't true. And I'm learning more and more what I thought was underlying anxiety in my life. And I thought, well, that's just inherited or something. I'm learning more and more that there's always something I'm thinking or believing that is contributing to that. And it's a pain in the butt to get to the bottom of it sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes, and when I do get the bottom of it, sometimes I realize why I avoid that. Because sometimes I get to the bottom like, oh crap, I don't want that to be the answer.
I don't want to deal with that.
No, I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather just be fat the rest of my life and eat food. I mean, isn't it true? We do it for a reason.
Yeah.
Good reasons usually. And then we just have to choose, okay, do I want to do this really stinking hard thing, or do I want to keep doing what I've been doing forever? Yeah. And usually I choose the stinking hard thing, and the whole time I'm kicking and screaming in the middle of it. And then when I'm finally, I finally feel better, then it feels worth it. At the time, it's questionable. So good. Yeah, I'm really glad you liked that part. In the food for thought today, I put in a link to that study by the BYU professor.
Yeah.
The article is really good, and I think it's an excellent one to be able to share. So say you wanted to share it with Wendy or someone else, and it gives them something very concrete, easy to read. It's not the study itself, but it is the person who did the study and has some credibility that you can just say, look, this is what's really going on out there. And I think it's fascinating that the professor himself lost 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Doing it, right? I mean, so many times it's just like a study and it's so clinical. And this guy's like, no, I live it. I get it. I really like one. So, and then, then there's the, if I can remember, the three main studies that started all this out, right, was the BYU one, or somehow, why does that make me happy that it's the BYU one?
Yeah.
But that one in 2005, and then the 2006 one from Dr. Tilka, and she's one that kind of established that unconditional permission to eat when hungry and what food is desired, and then eating for physical rather than emotional reasons, and relying on internal hunger and satiety cues. So, and then it just snowballed from there. It's like those two developed the rating system for how you can actually decide that. And then it's like that was the tool everybody else was able to use to say, okay, now let's study a bunch of people in these different situations and see how it works. So, okay, so let's see. That's interesting. I have highlighted here in my notes the same thing that you brought up. Every emotion has a physical sensation. I just think that's a powerful thing to know. See, we're on the same page, because here I put in for one of my questions, how does it make you feel to know that it has a physical emotion? Like, do you disagree? Do you agree? And have you ever had a time where you felt like you disagree, like you can have an emotion without a physical sensation? You think of one?
I have no idea.
It'd be interesting to pay attention just to your emotions this week and see where you feel them. Like, I've noticed sadness will kind of give me a headache. I don't know if it's because I feel like crying, or something like that, but I'll often have just kind of like, oh, I just want to close my eyes and go to sleep. I have a headache right now. So it'd be kind of interesting to pay attention to, okay, here's the emotion I'm feeling. What's the physical manifestation of that? Even like good feelings like happiness. Well, what does that feel like? Feels more open, free. I don't know. So it'd be kind of fun to pay attention to that.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 284, they talk about the identifying the benefits and the characteristics of intuitive eating, and they start with adolescence. And it made me think about our situation last week with my daughter, where she was being kind of criticized on what she was eating and on her weight. And, I was thinking, why do you think that adolescents are at such a high risk for developing eating disorders? Why them more than anyone else?
Well, they're very, what's the word? People influence them so much more. I don't know, more than us or not. I don't know, but I think they're at that age when they, some can be followers and just do what everybody else is doing, and all the media and all the, you have to do this, and everybody's dieting, and I think as we get older, we're like, no, I don't have to do what you're doing. Or,
I think it is true that you get a little more maybe critical of the messages that you get as you get older. I think we're still really susceptible, but I think we do get more critical of them because we've seen enough things pan out to be false.
Yeah.
That we are more critical. We don't believe everything we hear all the time. It's also interesting too, though. I think it's kind of a time where they're not little kids anymore. So they are realizing that they're separate from you and that they have to come up with their own beliefs about things. So it's like they're now looking outward instead of at home.
Yeah.
Okay, what does the world say? Okay, here's what mom and dad say. I'm not listening to that anymore. I get that. I have that down, which is why they just completely tune us out. And now I'm going to pull in everything the world says and experiment with that and see if that works. And then it's like afterwards, then you can start picking and choosing, okay, well, this part that my parents said I actually did like, and this part that my parents said I didn't like, and this part that the world says I like, and this part, they start kind of picking and choosing more. But it's almost like they choose to believe the outward stuff completely so that they can mess with it and see how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the dangerous thing is when they start getting into things that are so addictive or that breed on themselves, and make it even worse.
Yeah.
How did you feel about your body when you were a teenager?
I always thought I was fat. And everybody else was skinny. I don't remember when I first.
Nothing, huh?
What's that?
Sounds very all or nothing. Everyone else is skinny and only I am fat.
Yeah.
When did you start feeling that? What age do you think?
I don't even know.
What's the youngest you can remember? What's a memory of when you felt that way?
Probably high school. Just all my friends were skinny. I don't remember a specific
incidents that stick in your mind.
No.
Just a general belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I remember having friends that were very comparative, and they were like cheerleaders and things like that. And I had asthma. I never ran a day in my life. And so they would make comments about how, ooh, look how your calf shakes when you move it, or look how,
Yeah.
and I remember feeling fat, looking back now, not even close to being fat, but boy, I sure felt it. I felt like I was being compared and always being the one put lower, right? Yeah. And also I think that most kids don't have the voice to tell somebody to shut up either.
Yeah. Sure.
I certainly didn't.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So interesting that, do you ever still feel like you're that same teenager that feels like everybody else is skinny and you're fat?
Yeah.
So if we're so good then at as adults, taking and saying, well, this is true and this is true and this is false, I'm getting rid of this, I'm getting rid of this and this. How come we're not doing it? Or how come we haven't done that with this? First of all, is it true?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what's not true about it.
That there are lots of people who are bigger than me, and there's lots of people who are smaller than me, and there's lots of people who are the same as me. There's
Uh-huh.
diversity.
Yeah, yeah. And it's very relative, right?
Yeah.
If I say, this circle is really big, well, that would only be in comparison with the circle this big,
Yeah.
right? Or this big or this big. But if I put it in comparison with, the moon, it would be very, very small.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that judgment is what hurts, not necessarily the size, right?
Yeah.
So interesting. So just kind of think about that, how it affects you as a teenager, and at what point do we stop being teenagers and start shaking off the parts that we don't believe in anymore.
Yeah.
I think it has to happen over and over if you're like me.
Oh, for sure.
Because you
On it
might
all the
realize that it's not true now, but when you sit in Relief Society next time and you start looking around the people around you, you might have that thought creep back up.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm just looking. Most of these, what I did is I did a quick summary of most of these that were, or all of them that were listed, and they kind of all say the same thing, right? They're verifying the same facts. And so the one thing, well, there's two areas that I would have questions for you. And if you look at page 287, that is where they talk about the impact of parent and caregiving messages. And we kind of touched on that before. And you said that really the only person you remember giving you negative messages was your grandfather, right? So how do you feel like your parents influenced your eating and body image?
Well, I do remember that my mom made me drink Diet Coke.
Instead of regular?
Yeah. I mean, from young. I mean, like grade school, maybe.
Yeah, interesting. And did
Yeah.
she ever say why?
I don't know.
She felt like it was because it could be anything from, hey, this is better for all of us, we're going to do this, to, did everybody else around you get to drink the regular in the family, or did everybody drink the diet?
I know my parents drank Diet. I'm not sure about my sister.
Mm.
She's always been skinnier than me too, so that's always been hard.
You were the one they were concerned about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and you catch on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's you can't hide from your kids how you feel, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. So how did your parenting style affect your kids, do you think?
Well, since doing this, I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have done things differently.
Amen.
Yeah. But I do try to treat everyone the same and, help them be grateful for their bodies and talk about things. So my Molly, my oldest daughter, is taking a PE nutrition class online. And one of the things that they were supposed to do is get this app that tracks their calories and all this stuff. So my next one, my 12-year-old Maya, she did it too. And I'm like, I don't like this. I said, this is like a diet. And she's like, no, Mom, it's just more awareness. And I'm like, if you're restricting because I only have so many calories left. And she's like, no, so she keeps trying to justify it, but I'm just like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah, and that's hard because you don't want her to get trapped in it, but you also don't want to, sometimes you tell them not to do something, they just want to do it all the more. Yeah. Interesting. So what are your thoughts on that? How to move forward with that?
I don't know. I'm just trying not to make a big deal of it. And I've already told her my thoughts on it. I don't know if I can do anything about it. I just keep doing my thing and, talking about the intuitive eating. And I've been mentioning little things here and there. And I said something to my other family, like my nieces and stuff, the other day too, because they have little ones. And so I was like, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have done this and this and this, and just kind of get little things in here and there. And
yeah, that's good. I think that's the best thing you can do is just teach the best you can, lift them up where you can, and kind of debunk the myths of the world as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting reading about all those eating disorder things last week, and realizing that these women are nutritionists. I mean, if you look at all the letters behind their name,
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous.
Right.
And they're all as high as you can get in all that stuff. And so they do worry about the nutrition, right? They do think about it, especially when they're dealing with people with severe issues. They have to really worry about that. But it's interesting. It's like, I think our brains are very black and white sometimes. Some of us tend to think in all or nothing, right? And so I think it's interesting that we can say, you know what, it's great to make sure that you're getting the nutrition you need. It's great to make sure that your body has the energy it needs and the strength it needs. And it's great to exercise and do all that stuff for the right reasons, you know. And it's also good to listen to your body and learn how to trust your body rather than outside things, you know. Yeah, it can be scary how to deal with our kids when we know how much pain it's caused us. It's hard to be afraid that it's causing the same thing. And we had an issue this week where my daughter went in for her dress fitting, and she had put on a few pounds since Christmas, and then she took it back off, and then she put them back on, and her dress doesn't fit the way she wants. And we need to now go let it out a little bit. And she was in tears, and I'm not even going to look pretty on my wedding day. And in all honesty, I felt at such a loss for words, because there is a part of my brain that says, okay, you got 2 months. We can take off 10 pounds. I do. I want to say that because I want her to be happy and feel good about how she looks in the dress. And then the other part of me is like, don't worry about it. We'll just take it out an inch, you know? And it's really hard to know how to balance that line when you've been living in both worlds, and when they are not understanding what intuitive eating is either. You know, and I bought her the book. I talk about it as much as I can. I'm trying to change myself, but it's really hard to see them repeating your patterns and not really know exactly how to get them out of it.
Yeah.
Adult, I can't sit down for a family meeting and say, we're going to study this book. I can't, you know, all I can do is say, I love you. You're beautiful the way you are. It's going to be fine. You're going to be gorgeous. You know,
Yep.
It is very emotionally difficult. Right. Okay. And then, but I had another question here, but we talked about it last week, which was, you know, how do you implement this with your kids if your spouse isn't on board? Mm-hmm. We talked about that quite a bit before, but I think it's interesting that a lot of these studies in here are geared towards how a parent's behavior affects children. Mm-hmm. And so for us, I think it's just good to be aware of how it affected us. And then again, how does it affect our own kids?
Yeah.
All right. So now I have to tell you my favorite part of this whole chapter, because I feel like it's what I'm learning right now, which is this self-silencing part.
I like that part.
Did you like it? Did it resonate with you?
I think so.
Yeah. Tell me any ideas, any thoughts on that?
You might, maybe once you start talking, I'll remember.
Okay. Well, it starts on page 287. And here we go. Self-silencing. I have a big star next to it. And it says here, self-silencing is the suppression of one's thoughts, feelings, or needs. And it is a gender phenomenon influencing women's mental health. And I start it big because I believe that 100%. It is not hard for my husband to say what he thinks at all. It's extremely hard for me. And I'm like, why is that so hard? And then it goes on to talk about how the process of self-silencing is usually thought to begin in adolescence. I wrote down here, mine began at birth. Because I think in a dysfunctional family, you often get taught from a young age, your opinion is not needed, wanted, or important, right? Mm-hmm. But I think even if you grow up in a healthy household, it does happen at adolescence, because then the outside world starts to tell you that. You get those feelings from there, and then you've got all that conflicting stuff going on. And then it talks about how, you know, because the outside world is telling you what to think and how to feel, then young women start ignoring their own things. So, well, if I'm hungry, but people are telling me I'm fat and need to lose weight, well, I'm just going to ignore that hunger to fit in over here. We start completely losing touch with, well, what is our body saying? Right. For me, I don't think I ever lost touch with my hunger. I lost touch with my fullness. right? If your friends want to go get pizza, it really doesn't matter if you're hungry or not.
Right.
You're going for pizza to be with your friends, right? And if you're having a slumber party, well, of course you're going to eat junk food at night. It doesn't matter if you're hungry.
Right.
So, yeah, just interesting. We're more worried about what our friends think than anything else. And then this part, I have a huge quote. I believe it starts on the last word of page 287, and it goes over the page. And I had to copy this down in quotes. Expression of thoughts, feelings, or needs appears to be a critical aspect of healthy eating behaviors. And so I'm going to keep quoting, it'll keep going. But isn't that interesting that just expressing your thoughts, feelings, or needs from a scientific standpoint appears to be critical in order to have healthy eating behaviors?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that can be emphasized too much,
Yeah.
right? At least for me, I know it's absolutely critical. Intuitive eating is maximized when a woman has high levels of emotional awareness combined with low levels of self-silencing. So in other words, the more we understand what we're really thinking and feeling, and then the more we say something,
Yeah.
the better we do at intuitive eating.
Yeah.
Also, just as an interesting thing to notice here, notice it says high levels and low levels. It doesn't say you're perfect at this and you're perfect at that.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, you're pretty good. You have a high level of understanding your emotions. It doesn't mean you're going to get it every single time. And then you have a low level of self-silencing, which means it's still there sometimes, but you're pretty good at expressing what you feel. And this says, however, when high emotional awareness was coupled with more self-silencing, I think this is fascinating. Participants had more disordered eating and less intuitive eating. So there was something about being highly aware of our emotions, but then not acting on them, that makes your intuitive eating go even worse, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of why some people will come in and they'll say, well, yeah, I just can't seem to stop my eating and I graze too much at night and blah, 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 blah. And then you start getting into the emotional stuff and their overeating gets worse. And they're like, what the heck? Like, I'm here to stop overeating and to lose weight. Why I don't want to do this. And what they don't realize is, no, the problem is that you're not dealing with the emotional part. And then as soon as you deal with that, you still don't have the skills yet how to stop the eating. So then it just goes crazy. And then you have these choices to make of, okay, how do I learn to stop self-silencing? And then once you get that along with the eating, then it starts going down like this.
So do you think self-silencing, it needs to be taken care of like outwardly with someone else, or would journaling be something you could do to not self-silence?
I think both, depending on what the issue is. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think it just depends. That's why it's so important to be in tune with the emotion so that you can start to recognize, okay, what is the action I have to take? Is journaling it going to be what I need to do? And sometimes, lots of times the answer is yes. Lots of times the answer for journaling for me is usually part of the answer, even if I do have to talk to someone else, because it helps me think through. I mean, just this week I had a situation where I was just filled with a million emotions. I felt like a wreck. And it helped me to just sit down and say, okay, what is my part of this? All right, here's what I shouldn't have done. Here's the emotion I was feeling and why I was feeling it, blah, 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 blah. And here's the other person and why I'm angry with them. And it helped me to kind of put it all in its own little boxes and make sense of it all. And now after journaling all that, now I'm looking and saying, oh crap, I got to apologize for this part that was mine. And even harder than that is I need to say, and I'm not really happy with how this happened. And that's your part, right? And I have to be able to stand up for, okay, but yes, I will claim what's mine, but I'm not going to claim what's yours, right? And so in that situation, I had to journal and I have to apologize and I have to stand up and say, but something else has to change. And that's excruciatingly difficult for me. Keep me up at night, hard to do. Right? But I'm noticing that the more I do it, the less I feel any desire to go eat when I'm not hungry. So I have to keep saying, okay, I know this will get better if I keep practicing. And the truth is, I'm practicing it right now, and sometimes I do it really badly. And that's why I have parts to apologize for. Because in trying to speak up for my own needs, sometimes I can be not nice. And then I go, oh, crap, that one. I shouldn't have done it that way. I should have stopped and thought about it. I should have journaled first and then dealt with it, you know. So I'm learning, but I have faith that the more I keep doing that, even though I'm still miserable about having to deal with the emotional stuff right now, I'm pleasantly surprised that I really don't have a desire to eat junk right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think it goes hand in hand. And I think it's scary to, when you do the IAAA, it's that last A that wants to bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't want to think about it. Because we don't want to have to do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So do you find yourself self-silencing?
Yeah. I have been for a while now with Derek. I think I've talked to you about this. Just since he's been bishop, and I feel lonely and like I'm not a priority, and I put this guard up, and I'm distancing myself now with him, and I don't I kind of just do my thing, and whatever he does, fine, because I never know when he's going to be home, you know, that. And I haven't talked to him about it. I don't want to talk to him about it, because I just have this guard up, because I don't want to change. I can't change him. So I think I'm still processing. I don't know.
Okay. So what emotions would you identify are going on associated with that?
All of them. Sad, mad, disappointed.
Okay, don't rush through them too quick. What are you sad? What are you sad about?
That he's gone all the time. Well, and I say all the time, and obviously he's not. Like, I don't know. I'm sad that our relationship is changing. I'm scared. You know how your mind always goes to, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get divorced. I know that's not right, but you think about those things. Like, yeah, you watch other marriages, and that's how they start out down that road, and so it's scary. I'm frustrated that, like, for instance, on Sundays, our stake president has said that you need to be home by 5 o'clock to be with your families, to the leaders, the bishops and stuff. And, he'll come home at 6 o'clock. And so I'm just frustrated and mad. Why aren't you listening to the stake president? He wants you to be home with your family. You need to be home with your family. But I don't say anything. What else am I feeling? Lonely, because even sometimes when he's here, he's not, because he's thinking, he's on his phone, he's working, he's this is a really bad one, and I don't know if it's true, but he still wants to be with me intimately, because he's a man and he needs that, where I don't get my needs met that way. I need him in a different way. So.
You mean you're a woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to say use, because I don't,
I know
feel like prostitute, but you know what I mean. Like,
I do.
I just do it for him, just to make him happy and meet his needs.
Right.
And I don't want to speak up for my own needs because he doesn't get it, because we've talked about that over and over to nauseum. Is that how you say that? I don't know.
Nauseum, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Is there some guilt in there? I mean, after all, he's serving the Lord, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're supposed to be the good bishop's wife that's supposed to be so supportive.
Yeah.
And instead you feel like, how soon can he get released from this?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of very normal, very common feelings that I have yet to meet a bishop's wife who didn't experience all of that if they were close enough to me to tell me about it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we've identified the feelings. We acknowledge that they're there. We have attributed, we know what they're coming from. And now the last one is act. That's the part we don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And we say, why should I think about the feeling? Because it just makes me cry. It makes me sad, and I can't do anything about it. And that I can't do anything about it is the lie. Right? That's the lie that keeps us from doing it. Then we just get stuck in this cycle of, I'm just not going to feel these feelings. I'm not going to feel these feelings. I'm not going to feel these feelings. And then when we're sad, mad, frustrated, angry, and guilty, and there's nothing else that's going to help, a cookie sounds really good.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so let's identify the lie. Let's work with the lie that you can't do anything about it. Okay, so let's talk about what are some actions that will allow you to speak up for what you need while still being respectful of what he needs. Brainstorm. Like, they can be right or wrong. If we don't like them, we can toss them out later.
Okay. Let's see. Actions. What did you say?
What are some actions you could take that would help in this situation, that would help try to meet your needs and still be respectful of Derek's needs? He's not a jerk. He's not a horrible human being.
No.
Right?
Oh, I talked to him. That's the obvious one.
Okay, so talk to him, but then the question comes in, how?
Yeah. I don't know, because then there's sometimes I feel like I can't be totally honest with him because I don't want to hurt his feelings, or especially when it comes to sex. Like, we've had these conversations and I can't be totally honest with him because he doesn't understand and it hurts his feelings.
Okay. So where do we start? So we have a few different things to talk about. We have, in all honesty, if the part was taken care of, that is I need to know you want to spend time with me, and that this bishopric thing's not
all the other things.
Yeah, then the sex part would kind of take care of itself, right? Because it doesn't bother you so much. I mean, I don't know that in the history of the world women are ever going to feel the same as men do about sex. And so recognizing that for them, it's a different type of a need than ours. And that for women, we almost always feel that we are lacking the emotional connection, right? Are you still there? I think you froze up. I'm going to pause the recording for a second. Recording. Okay, what was the last thing you heard?
When you said something about if we took all of the, I don't know, if you said in all honesty, and then I lost you.
If we dealt with the getting your emotional needs met, then the sex thing doesn't bother you, right? Because you don't mind. We don't mind meeting their needs.
It would work itself out
met as well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So the real issue then is your emotional needs, and how can you work together to help get that. So do you believe that Derek cares about your needs, even if he's completely clueless about what they are? Do you think he cares about you enough that he would want your needs met?
Yes.
Okay, so if he knew what they are, he wouldn't be like, I don't care. Go find someone else to do that. Right? He would care, but he's probably just as clueless about how to deal with that as you are. Right? I think they feel, I know my husband feels the same way, just like, I do not know what to do for you. And I'm like, I wish you knew what to do. I don't know. So we have to be able to say what we need specifically, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think half of the challenge is starting out the conversation in a way that we acknowledge their needs first. In other words, if you come in and you say, I need to talk to you about how much you're not meeting my needs. Well, if he did that to you, you would be like, I can't do anything right. Right?
Totally on the defense.
Yeah. But if he came to you and he said, you know what, I really appreciate how hard you work at X, Y, and Z. And I know how much you love me and the kids. And I'm really appreciative of these things. I'm struggling with something and I could use your help. And I need your help because I don't know how to do this on my own. Then your attitude would be, all right, this might be a hard conversation, but he's not attacking me. Now, what I need to do is a little video clip of what I just said and email it to myself because I wouldn't have anything to apologize for tonight if I didn't pay attention to that. Okay, so it's easy to say, but it's helpful. That's where journaling comes in, where you can think through, how should I start this conversation? What are the good things that Derek is doing right now, right? How is he meeting the needs of our ward, and how is he trying to juggle his bishopric calling and his family and his work and his own personal time? And is he feeling overwhelmed? You take that moment to journal and say, where is he coming from and what are his needs? Maybe he's absolutely drowning. And guys sometimes will drown and they have no idea how to talk.
His mom's dying. He's got so much going on.
Yeah, his mother is literally on the brink of death. So I imagine he's just treading water, right? And so that's also then when your brain will be like, well, I shouldn't say anything.
There's more guilt.
I'm going to add the sinking rock that puts him under, and I don't want to do that either. So, it's never going to hurt to say, Derek, I can only imagine how you're feeling right at this point in your life. Your mom's dying, you've got Bishop, there's your work and your family, and I don't want to be an additional problem. But I'm also struggling with my own feelings. I'm struggling with my own feelings of feeling like I don't matter, of feeling like we don't have this time together. In my darkest times, I even have fears like, well, what if this leads to something worse? And what if this hurts our marriage? And I'm just wondering, how do we, and then fill in the blank. That's where you got to figure out, okay, do we need a weekly date night where we can get out and have a couple hours together so that I'm much better when you're with everybody else? Can we? And I don't know what those answers are, but that's where journaling is going to come in handy, and where a conversation with him where you can say, is there a way we can lighten the load somewhere so that you and I can make a connection on a regular basis of some kind? And maybe there's even ways you can say, is there a way I can lighten your load somewhere over here to make time so that we can have a connection? Because I really want an emotional connection with you. And I'm really struggling to know how to get that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make your life harder. Right? So point of that being, you don't have to go say it the way I say it, because trust me, if you saw all the mistakes I'm making when I try to communicate, you might be like, why am I paying Becky for advice? So, but the point is, what you're paying me for is coaching, which is helping you figure out how to sit down and think through it. And just recognize, what I'm trying to get through you right now is recognize that little voice that says there's nothing I can do is a lie. It's a lie. You can do something.
Okay.
Sometimes you can talk to him. There's going to be other times, you know what? They're not good times to say something. Right? And you're going to have to decide that based on the situation and what's going on. But when we just start believing that we're stuck in a situation that is never going to get any better and there's nothing you can do about it, that's just the definition of hopelessness. And when bad feelings never go away, or we believe they'll never go away, why would we not numb them?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the spiritual side of things for a minute. This is supposed to be from food to faith. So if we want to change, we have to really move away from dealing with it with food and moving towards the faith side of things. Right? So how do you incorporate faith in this issue?
Um, well, I mean, the obvious answers, I know my Heavenly Father loves me and He's patient with me and He's going to help me. And I believe that. And I know that I'm not alone and I can use the atonement. And I know that, when bishops are called, that their families are blessed. Um, but I also, I don't know. I think I'd have to really look and see what those blessings are. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you won't see them right now. Maybe we'll see them. What if one of the blessings is that it pushes you to the edge where you have to learn how to connect with each other?
Yeah.
What if that's one of the blessings you get out of this thing, is that when he's done being bishop, you're closer together because you had to learn how to be? What if one of the blessings comes from it is that you have angels working on your kids when you have no influence on them? It could be, but you may not know till later. There's a scripture that I would highly encourage you to look up. It's Jacob chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. And this is where Jacob is about to chew everybody out for not being faithful to their wives and blah, 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 blah. But he gives 2 verses that is just focused towards the people who are pure in heart, right? That just means they have good intentions. They're doing the best they can. They love the Lord, right? That doesn't mean they're perfect, but that's who he's talking to. And those 2 verses, he says, look unto God with firmness of mind. That means kind of keep your brain there, right? Our brains want to devolve into all the what ifs, and I feel horrible. And I'm the queen of that, so I'm not judging. And pray unto him with exceeding faith, and he will console you in your afflictions. And he will plead your cause. That means he's going to Heavenly Father and saying, okay, you got to give Mitzi a break because she's dying down here. You got to send her a life jacket, right? And send down justice upon those who seek your destruction. And in this case, probably the only people really seeking your destruction are Satan and his little followers, right? And then I love this next verse. O all ye that are pure in heart, lift up your heads and receive the pleasing word of God, and feast upon his love. For ye may, if your minds are firm forever. When I think about, I've spent a lifetime feasting on food to try to numb my emotions, and it didn't work very well. Nasty consequences. And not just the nasty consequences of all that food, but the nasty consequences of not ever learning how to develop this ability to speak and communicate well and talk about my feelings and help other people with their feelings. And to put that off for 50 years, it makes it painful when you deal with it, right? But I love that we can feast upon his love. And we think about, how do I feast on his love today instead of feasting on food? How do I receive the pleasing word of God? How do I receive the pleasing word of God? How do I read the scriptures and see the comfort he's trying to give me? How do I pray to him with exceeding faith? How do I pray and just know he's going to help us? Right? Derek is bishop. That means you guys have special blessings. And one of those special blessings is probably that God's like, I will help you. Let me help you. All right. So I think you can pray with exceeding faith. And he will console you. And he will plead your cause. He'll cast out Satan and his devils. And then our choice is to lift our head. That's an action. We actually have to lift. We have to stop looking down and start looking up. And then we have to receive the pleasing word of God, not just read it. And then we have to feast upon his love. That means all day, every day. Think about being instead of a binge eating disorder, let's have it be a binge, a binge receiving decision. I don't know what you want to call it. But I think that's the trick, is we got to replace all those negative, downward, hard things and just say, I'm going to do what it takes to get through it. And I'm going to ask the Lord to help me. I'm going to have faith that we're going to move upwards step by step.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I need to do some journaling to help me know, how to start the conversation and what to say, and when will be the right time. I just have to pay attention to. There actually have been a few times that would have been good times, but I just wasn't ready. I hadn't thought it all through, exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and that's part of the process.
I know there's time.
Have confidence in what you're going to say and do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Have you ever had on demand on your TV?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you think about being able to watch your favorite show on demand, that just means anytime you want, it's available, right? I love it. I hate commercials. I love having just be able to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. So I want you to think about, you don't have to answer now because I know we're out of time, but I want you to think about, what can you do? What kinds of things can you rely on to have the Spirit on demand this week? What things bring the Spirit into your life no matter what, when you need it? Right? For me, that can include putting on certain types of music, can lift the Spirit almost immediately. Serving someone else. If I take the time to actually do something for someone else, that can help. Sometimes praying helps, to be honest. If my heart and mind aren't in the right place, sometimes it doesn't do me any good whatsoever. Probably it does me more good than I think, but I don't immediately feel the Spirit sometimes. And same thing with studying the scriptures. But I know, like, if I'm in a downward spiral, I can put on certain types of music and it will help. So think about ways that you can kind of feast on his love, ways that you can bring that into your life more while you're working on, okay, how am I going to stop self-silencing so that I can actually get my needs met and at the same time help other people's needs? I mean, how much would it help Derek to know that you're being sensitive to what his needs are and he didn't even have to say anything? Right. And then you're worried about getting both of your needs met. And I need to take a page from that book and play it myself this week. All right, so homework. What are you going to work on for next week? What should I come back to on next Monday and say, okay, what did you do X this week? I'm actually taking notes, so speak carefully.
Okay. I want to journal about this and what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
And I don't want to commit to this for homework, but if there's a good time and the moment's right, I want to talk to him.
Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to ask you about if you journaled, how to talk to, what is up with I'm trying to take notes on here and it is not letting me. That's so weird. All right, I'll just put it up here then. Okay, so you're going to journal.
Yep.
About that, and then if the time comes right, you'll do it. If not, you'll talk about how that went and when the right time is.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, I got it. I can't wait to hear how it goes. If you need any moral reassurance or really stupid emojis or something to cheer you up, let me know.
Okay.
All right.
And what about in the book? Are we reading the epilogue? Are we done?
Yeah,
Or
no, we're still going. In fact, I think in the future, I decided that, I was going to make the epilogue part of today, but we'll look at it next week. And I was thinking in the future, I would like to start people by looking at Appendix A and Appendix B, because it summarizes the program and it talks about like how to like answer some of the common questions. I thought that would have been good to start with.
yeah.
So why don't we just kind of throw the epilogue in with those two things? Did I both those on the same lesson? Let me look here really quick.
It's kind of long.
It is kind of long. Just read. I'll tell you what. Let's find out together how much of that we cover in 1 week.
Okay.
That sound good?
Yep.
I'll just be prepared for as far as we get, and we'll see how many lessons that should take up, because they're kind of easy. Like I think you'll find the step-by-step guidelines and the questions to be fairly easy because we've dealt with most of them.
Okay.
So I don't think it'll be that hard, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, talk to you next week. Hang in there.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Bye.